Good morning and thank you for spending this time with us. A question was posed to me this morning. What is CTAG? CTAG is the COVID-19 Transparency Advocacy Group. We are a think tank and a watchdog group that was monitoring the ethical conduct of medicine and of the medical fraternity during the COVID-19 pandemic, which is still, by the way, ongoing. And our specific interests dealt with the administration and the observance of voluntary informed consent in the administration of the vaccines. And we also looked at much of the evolving epidemiological data internationally that examined the trends, and particularly asked the question of whether or not a vaccine was going to be the solution out of a pandemic which involved a rapidly mutating virus, or cold virus. And one of our predictions, which has come to pass internationally, as evidenced by data in Israel, Canada, the United States, Hong Kong, which are the most highly vaccinated countries in the world. We have seen now that their deaths and caseloads have exploded, and their hospitalizations are now, their hospitalization rate is now higher than before the pre-vaccination era. And this is not being covered in the media, but it is easily accessible to the public through the John Hopkins data set. But just to give you a background on the Responsible Parents TT group, which I'm a founder of, this group came about as a lobby group to advocate for the rights of children and for the safety of our kids, or minors and young persons less than minors. I would say young persons in their 30s and under. And a spin-off from this group as well, which is a subsidiary of CTAG, is the Vaccine Injury Support Group of Trinidad as well. So on August the 18th, 2021, the government began administering Pfizer COVID vaccine to children aged 12 to 18. And unfortunately, at the time, the vaccine was being made a prerequisite for school attendance. In response to this unprecedented and coercive measure, the Responsible Parents TT group was established to stand against forced vaccination in children and to lobby for equal access to education. As a matter of fact, and unbeknownst to most parents, the Pfizer pediatric vaccines, and let me be very clear, the Pfizer pediatric vaccines are unlicensed products which are being administered to children under emergency use authorization by the FDA. For the record, there is no COVID-19 emergency in children, and there is no compelling rationale for the emergency use authorization of these pharmaceuticals. So let me make it clear once again, the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine is not approved, it is not fully approved for use in children. The clinical rationale to vaccinate children to protect their adult counterparts is unethical and wrong. A properly tested vaccine with established short and long-term safety requires at least 3 to 5 years of rigorous, double-blinded, randomized controlled trials. And there is no way to determine safety without this requisite passage of time. What really disturbed us was that from the outset, it would appear that the messaging from the Ministry of Health appeared to give the impression that the pediatric Pfizer vaccine was fully approved, safe and effective. In a national address, the Minister of Health made the following impassioned appeal, quote, "Parents, if you love your children the same way you vaccinated them at 3 months from measles, mumps, rubella, polio, yellow fever, whooping cough and tetanus, it's the same thing, and we're asking you to do the same now. Very little has changed. I just want to make a plea to parents to get your loved ones, your children, vaccinated." The novel mRNA Pfizer vaccine is not at all analogous to well-tried and tested legacy vaccines like polio or yellow fever vaccines. Pfizer has and still has less than 4 months of rigorous randomized controlled trial safety data for children aged 12 to 15 years. Young and healthy persons are at negligible risk of COVID-19 morbidity and mortality. To date, according to UNICEF, there are about 12 to 15,000 pediatric deaths internationally due to COVID-19. And for a bit of perspective, every single year, about 1.2 million children die from other causes of pneumonia like influenza or respiratory syncytial virus or strep pneumonia. COVID-19 has never been, and still is not, whether it is Delta or Omicron, it is not a threat to children. On the 22nd of September, the Responsible Parents Group sought to obtain a copy of the Ministry of Health's pediatric COVID-19 vaccination policy through a Freedom of Information request to the Ministry. We hope to review the evidence base as well as the clinical and ethical rationale behind the decision to administer these vaccines to children. Importantly, we sought to determine if the policy ensured that parents would be transparently informed about the investigational nature of the vaccine before they consented their children. To date, the Ministry has not supplied a copy of its pediatric COVID-19 vaccination policy. On the 28th of February 2022, the Responsible Parents Group filed for leave for judicial review regarding the Ministry of Health's non-compliance with our FIRE request. So we are trying to seek legal recourse, and we have filed for leave for judicial review. The Ministry of Health, it would surprise me if the Ministry of Health actually has a cogent policy for COVID-19 vaccination of children. And this policy really had to address the issue of voluntary informed consent. And I wanted to very briefly go through what voluntary informed consent is, because to me, it is denial of this consent that has been an insult to the population, not just of Trinidad and Tobago, but of the world population in regards to COVID-19 vaccine administration. In medical ethics, informed consent is a patient guarantee, which is enshrined in Trinidad and Tobago, enshrined in our Patient Charter of Rights and Obligations, as well as the Nuremberg Code. It is the key protection against medical interventions that may cause bodily injury, psychological distress, or any harm onto a potential subject. The provision of informed consent is indispensable when patients are confronted or are offered novel pharmaceutical interventions which carry an unknown risk of harm or possible interventional failure. Patients must be provided with the essential facts about the procedure or drug being offered to enable them to make an informed decision that maximizes their personal benefits and minimizes their exposure to unnecessary risks or harms. This exercise in personal decision-making acts as the principal safeguard to body autonomy, and it ensures that an individual does not unwittingly agree to medical interventions in a state of confusion, anxiety, misinformation, disinformation, or trickery. As stated in the Nuremberg Code, quote, "The voluntary consent of the human subject is absolutely essential. This means that the person involved should have legal capacity to give consent, should be so situated as to be able to exercise free power of choice, without the intervention of an element of force, fraud, deceit, duress, overreaching, or other ulterior form of constraint or coercion. And it should have sufficient knowledge. The patient should have sufficient knowledge and comprehension of the elements of the subject matter involved, so as to enable him or her to make an understanding and an enlightened decision."